Hello world, this is Ricket Ralph. Today we will be covering the two bishops attack. I played this game against somebody on Jostly. He's one of my regular opponents. We play a bunch of different variations, but this one's always the one we usually end up on. So yeah, starts off with a high eagle position, high lion, low king, and low queen. This is a type of position where there's going to be lots of action because all the power pieces are placed up front. So let's jump in. I play my queenside prince pawn up 2 spaces just to get my bishop open, and this signals a bunch of possibilities. So this is in itself is not any type of variation, just a nice opening move that's very common and a great deal of variations. So this could go anywhere. It could go into the 2 prince attack. The 2 prince opening. It could go into a center game where the center pawns come out, or it could be played as more of a defensive type opening. Which is kind of what this is. This is a hyper-modern opening I'm playing. So my opponent mirrors my move. This is just as efficient, although generally when this is mirrored you won't end up with the exact same position, but the starting moves are generally similar for both sides. So the bishop comes out. This is the first time I ever played this opening against him as well. So he's not familiar with the tactic and had no way of knowing he could stop it, possibly, or slow it down. So he brings his knight out. He's just going for solid development, and he wanted to move a piece with less options. So that was a good piece to choose, because the bishop will have a great deal of options, so you want to wait to move it sometimes. And I play my rook pawn out. This is the other key move. This is the move that signals the 2 bishop variation. You could feasibly play just this move and bring your bishop back, and this would not technically be the 2 bishops, but usually it's just best to bring this bishop out anyways. But you could actually play with just this bishop over here and then possibly develop this way. But it would kind of create a position where your castling isn't that great. So it's better to just go into the full 2 bishop setup. So this pawn comes out, and this is a move that we've seen before in other variations I've showed, and this is just a stable move for protecting your wing pawn, because in Metamachy the wing pawns are immediately threatened by cannons in situations where the elephants come out on both sides. So this is a move to actually free up your elephant in the long run. So I bring my bishop back. I just do it immediately because I don't want any hanging threats for the future. So I'm trying to play this clean and efficient and not give up any potential tactics that could favor him in the future. So he plays his opposite side camel out. He's clearly going for a light square piece placement first. So in the early game, he's going to have a lot more influence over the white squares. Although he could transfer the dark squares too, because there are so many pieces in this game that you can kind of take pieces of both of the light and the dark squares and still get a pretty decent game, and unlike normal chess where you tend to favor one over the other usually. So I play my king's knight pawn out 2 spaces, and this sets me up to bring in the second bishop and get my castling position going. This is actually, even though this is an integral move for the opening, it's actually also creates your key weakness, which is basically this whole area around here. But it's not an easy weakness to break because you do have a giant slew of pieces just protecting your position. And once we have the full setup, I'll show how the whole position kind of supports itself. Now he brings his bishop up. I don't fully agree with this move, but it could be potentially good later on in the game. It seems like he's just playing it safe and not wanting to bring his prince out. Doesn't want it to be a target. So this is one way to play. His bishop's not really that useful either, so maybe it is best to just keep it back as a defensive piece to protect his more important pieces. But I still like the idea of bringing the princes up and having lots of control over the center. So, ironically, I bring my prince up. And he plays his lion's pawn, grabbing more space out of the center and giving him more potential piece development. And this also unlocks the eagle. Starting to get the eagle in the game a little bit, that's kind of important because this is going to be an action-packed game. So I get my bishop in. A little side note, I always see people try to develop the more powerful pieces first in Metamachy often after they've only gotten a couple of little ones out. I prefer to actually focus on the little ones for a long period of time, although it can be somewhat of a weakness because if a cannon were to come out or something, like this clump of royal pieces could be a target. So I guess bringing them out early is like a dynamic compensation for doing that. So he plays his bishop up, and now we see what he's trying to do with it. He's trying to scope out my bishop and create holes in my position by trading. And this actually resembles in real chess a Fort Knox variation, which is something played out of the French defense. It was made by some grandmaster whose name I can't remember. You can look it up if you want. So I play my knight out on the king side. And I'm just trying to clear my second rank so I can get my rook free later in the game. It's something I've been tinkering with recently, and it helps a little bit. There are advantages to leaving the rook defensively, so it's actually not necessary to do that. But if you want more of an attacking game, you can bring the rook out, and then both are perfectly fine. So he plays his eagle's pawn out, and now he's got a pretty hardy center, and it's not overextended, and it's pretty well protected, and he's going to have a lot of potential for development, which is a good thing to do as black. You really don't want to get too brave when you're playing black in most chess games. So it's not necessarily great to play the big, sharp variation when you're black. Sometimes it's better to just play it safe and try to wait for your moment to strike, especially in a game with this many chess pieces. So I play my camel out, and I'm just finishing development on the king side. I'm not worrying too much about the queen side because, for one, he's not really claiming much space on the queen side yet, so I can still race him to control it. And the other thing is that I want to leave my castling as a question because feasibly maybe this structure looks like maybe I don't want to castle over here. So I like to leave my opponent guessing on the off chance I do just want to go castle this way, because if he just comes crashing in here too early and without a king to come at to attack, maybe attacking the structure isn't such a good idea because of how well developed it is. So it kind of makes your opponent have to rethink how they play against you because you haven't committed your castling yet. And even if it's just for a couple moves, it's still useful. So he plays his prince pawn out, completing the 4-pawn front, which is pretty good. I like to usually let one side extend more, which is, as you know, I don't have development over here. But sometimes it's better to leave them back and just see what happens in the center first, and then organize your pieces accordingly because the center is the most action-packed spot. So from a classical standpoint, he's doing pretty well, but he does need to start thinking about his own castling soon. So I started expanding my center now. It took me a little longer, but I am going with a hyper-modern approach here, so that's to be expected. And also, you don't feel the sting of a full center like you do in normal chess in Metamachy, because even though the pawns can move 2 spaces, it does take the royal pieces and the other pieces a second to get in the game. So he plays up. He's just trying to block out my fianchetto and create a phalanx. So this is fairly normal. Just a common thing you can use against the 2 bishops defense. It's kind of an anti-system. So I do something interesting here. This isn't normally a move I do, but I brought my prince up, and my idea here is to make my 4-pawn front really well protected without having to bring the full front in immediately. So it kind of gives me an option to put my front more towards the wing and give me more protection on my king. It's kind of double-edged in a way because this pawn doesn't get very much action because you're deliberately leaving it back, so it doesn't benefit the eagle very much. But it's great to have the king's safety. So he plays his prince up finally. So he's gearing up to start really getting his development going and probably look towards his own castling prospects. So I bring my rook over, and this is the big addition to the opening I've been putting in, and it's going to give me attack potential later on. The point's not really to attack this specific line, it's just to have the rooks connected when you're done getting all your pieces off the second rank. So he plays his bishop out. It appears he's going with the same type of strategy. Obviously, it's something that resembles castling, so it would be reasonable for people to do it a lot. So I bring my center out, starting to finish my front. He obviously has more central control than I do, but in the long run, I'm going to have a lot of piece power on him because I have just so many pieces pointing towards the center. I just have to get them in the right positions to start causing chaos. So he brings his lion out, starts committing it. This is theoretically that double-edged thing I was talking about, where you move your royal pieces a little bit earlier because of the fact they can be threatened and they're in giant clumps. So he's just peeling off that first layer of royal pieces, and it is giving him support over here. So this area is going to be almost impossible to attack because he's got the Prince-Lion combo keeping him pretty safe, and then he's got other pieces that can just interfere with any attack you bring out. So I bring my 4-pawn front out, and now I'm getting serious. I start developing more pieces. I really want to develop my pieces in a way that complements my pawn expansion I'm trying to make, and I really just want to make a good pawn chain, create a pawn break, and then try to get an outpost and use the outpost to advance my position. So he brings his elephant out, and this move is doable for 2 reasons. For one, my elephant's still here and it's probably not coming out anytime soon, and so that means my cannon can't get to his pawn. And second, he moved that pawn 1 space earlier as a proactive move, so he wouldn't have to worry about it. And I don't blame him for doing that, because even though it could be considered a wasted move, like in the early stages of the game, it is really easy to forget about this pawn. So just having that peace of mind of knowing your pawn's safe might actually just make you play better, honestly. So I move my prince up, and I just do this because he is starting to develop a little bit over here, and I want to make sure everything's safe because Metamachy pawns are really fast. So I want to make sure that like he doesn't pull a fast one on me and just start throwing all of his pawns like crazy, which I believe he starts doing pretty soon actually. So he's claimed his full center now, and he just has a lot of space. I feel like this bishop might be a little bit misplaced, but he is counteracting my fianchetto, and bravo to him for that, because a lot of people have trouble against that I do play this against. They have trouble against this because it just throws off a lot of what you want to do in the game, so it's really annoying. So I play here. This isn't normally a move I do, but this is just something that's unique to the position because I want to bring this pawn out, and I really can't because of this bishop. And the reason I want to do that is because I want to make sure his camel doesn't have free roam to just go over here and just start messing things up. So I bring this pawn out so that I can thrust this pawn up, and it also gives me some protection right here for a second from this bishop. But yeah, it was just a kind of a necessity of a move, and I liked it. So he plays his knight forward, so he's not really doing much of this pawn structure over here. He's kind of keeping his castling a question too, and it's pretty wise to do that in Metamachy. Like, early castling can mess you up. I usually end up like caving and castling as early as possible, but delayed castling in regular chess, I do delayed castling very often, probably more than I should, ironically. And then both can be good, but just in Metamachy you have to wait at least a little longer just to make sure that your opponent doesn't get wind of where you're at. So I play this pawn out finally, and I have my really good pawn front, a chain to support it, so I've met my first two conditions, and now I'm just waiting for pawn breaks. But in order to make a pawn break, I might have to develop more pieces. Probably what I do. His prince comes out, so now he's got both princes up, and his development's looking pretty good. He's actually developing faster than me at this point because I wasted so many pawn moves. So there is something to be said for holding back these pawn moves, because the extra time he got is giving him some development. So if he can flood these pieces into the spots where the integral pawn breaks happen, he can cause quite a bit of distress for me. And he does make things annoying for a minute, but I managed to just barely hold on to my pieces and just play pretty well. So I do break down in castle, and it was mostly because I already had my castling set up, and I knew that pawn breaks were coming soon, and I wanted complete assurance that I could get the game rolling. And castling also has an offensive value because now I can bring my cannon over here and really bear down on the center. So he plays his rook over, creating a battery. It's actually a three-piece battery: rook, queen, eagle. So he's taking advantage of the natural placement of the royal pieces in this game. Bravo to him. And yeah, self-explanatory move. His rooks are pretty close to connected, so that's also pretty good for him. He doesn't really need this rook just yet, so it's all pretty solid. So I play my queen over here, so I'm unflooding my royal pieces. I just waited a little bit longer, and I'm just preparing for, I don't want any discovered attacks, and yeah, it's just, I have to do it pretty much forward. So he brings his pawn up. He's trying to basically push forward and cause some exchanges and get an isolated pawn out of me possibly, and he just wants to see what I'll do. So I do something a little bit more forcing. I want to kind of be the one to decide the position, not let him get to choose where all the pieces fly. So I play my pawn up. I basically make him choose between two evils. So he can either have a fixed pawn structure, or he could take and keep his attack going, but I'll get some development and free piece space. So yeah, I like this, and if he doesn't act on it, I can completely lock it out. And even though it locks me out, it has its own value because he has all these pieces pointing towards this file, and if it closes up, then all that effort is wasted. So he brings his knight out. He's wanting to threaten my prince, and maybe if like I made the wrong move, he would come in here and mess with my bishop. So I bring my camel back so that he can't threaten my prince. And it also puts pressure over here. And yeah, it also protects my eagle in a pawn break situation. So he brings his camel out. He's just trying to get more pieces going. So I bring my bishop back, and the reason I do this is to protect my pawn right here so that I can move my elephant up when I want to. So he pushes his pawn, and now he is creating an X-ray on my bishop, so I have to do something about that, but first I bring my elephant up. It's not an immediate threat until my knight comes into question, so I didn't handle it right away because there's no reason to. And I also want to develop my knight to get a lot of focus right here and just try to really bear down. I'm actually almost hoping he takes here because these pawns could be an easy target if he was to misstep and not protect them properly. So he starts bearing down on my knight, just really wanting to wait for me to slip up. I play my cannon, guy behind a bunch of pieces, so it's not relevant at the moment. But I just want to have it prepared, and I feel like this is the most likely spot to have a pawn break. I honestly didn't do that great with my cannons this game, but I just pretty much picked the best option I could find, and the game wasn't really about the cannons. It was a really small game, so he takes, and I didn't really go for the close position at that moment because I did want to have scope with my bishops, although it would have been an interesting game, but he could have opened it up pretty easily, so there really wasn't any closing the game per se, unless he lets me. So I take the pawn back. He advances, so he's trying to make more pawn breaks and just threaten me and push me away. Try to find a weakness and go for my king and possibly checkmate it. So I finally protect my bishop, because I do see that the knight's going to be in danger soon. He advances this pawn. He could have advanced this pawn and it probably would have been okay, but he would have lost some of his power right here, and I might have been able to turn this into a convenient outpost and play this forward, and I actually would have slowed his pawn structure down. So this is going to open up a lot more play for him. So it's pretty smart actually. But I make an interesting move, kind of maybe a surprise move. It did take me quite a while to move after this, but I'm like, well, he got these two juicy pawns right here, and he's threatening my pawn, so something's got to give. So I'm just gonna push forward, and if he takes, I do with my lion being threatened potentially, but I take with my camel, and then I'm forking him, and I can take one of these pieces, and if he takes my lion, I can take his queen. So with my eagle actually, and it would actually cause some problems for him as well. And the other thing was I could also just move my lion up and protect the camel. So if he didn't create any significant threat, I could get away with pawn and still have some play in the game. But he actually decides to ignore it and play this interesting move. So he's offering up a gambit because he knows that the lion is worth more than the rook. And he actually got checkmated by a lion before by me. So he never seen a lion in his life before that. So he has a lot more respect for him now. You see right here, he's trying to make this camel fort, and he almost succeeds. Like, he does get me pretty bad here, but I get out on a course of luck, actually. So I go here and block the outpost. Another move I could have made was to move my eagle up. Probably actually a better move, but I just went with this because I didn't really fully see the danger. So he forks me. This is kind of interesting. You could trade the camel for the prince. So I bring my eagle back because obviously I don't want to give him that. But he actually makes an interesting choice to move his bishop and threaten my rook. So he was going to get a prince for a camel. But then I make a magical move that he did not see coming and actually punish him for his greediness. And I move my prince over here. So what is this, right? So I actually talked about in my last video that I haven't really decided if I like a prince over a bishop and vice versa. So I decided, since I was in this awkward position anyways, that I'd put it to the test. And as luck would have it, he wasn't messing with it. So he decided he didn't want to put it to the test either. He didn't know either, basically. So he just threatens my camel, double threat. So I back off. So at this point, I'm still wondering, like, is he gonna take my prince? And no, he doesn't. He just goes for some positional play, which you gotta respect him for that because he didn't want to take this. But there was one mistake here, is that you could take his bishop with the camel, but it's kind of funny actually because I think he wanted me to take it, because if he did take it, he would get his pawn up right here, and there would actually be very little to stop me, or stop him from creating a really nasty pawn chain. And for a camel for a bishop, that might almost be worth it. So I didn't actually see it though, so I ignored it for a second and moved my camel over here, and I'm trying to get his camel out of my position because it's really annoying. And I get the camel trade going. Then he castles his king. So this is why we see all this type of play right here too, is because he was thinking about castling over here and he decided to go with it. He's got his knight pointing here. He has a potential threat there, but there's nothing big because I can just move my prince up. So I take, he takes, I take, I get a pawn out of him. He moves his eagle, so he starts trying to take control of that line again. And this is actually the point where I see the bishop sitting on the outpost. And then to top it off, I pick up the pawn because I managed to shake his position. So it's kind of the turning point of the game where I start to develop a real edge and get him back for all the bullying he did to me earlier. And he pushed up. He actually still comes out with a pretty aggressive attack. So I move my knight up here. I'm trying to clear some pieces away and let my position unfurl. And I really want to put a lot of pressure on this camel right here because I'm going to be able to take his eagle. So takes with the knight. I take, I'm putting a lot of pressure. Now he makes a move he probably shouldn't make, which just goes here. And then I made the move I shouldn't have made. I moved my pawn up because I kind of blanked out and forgot what I was supposed to be doing over here. And yeah, I call shenanigans. But he decides to threaten my prince, and I'm like, well, I still get the eagle? Yeah, let's do it. So I was like, whatever, I'll give up the concession. He actually takes back and lets me get off for free. And brings his camel out, trying to mess with my bishops again. So I go here, and this camel is a huge weakness to the two bishops opening. So he's actually pretty smart to bring his camel over here, but he probably should have brought it over better conditions. Like, he hasn't really gotten the pawn front out yet, and it does take him a while to start attacking me. So I bring my queen up. He brought his elephant out. We're just both getting like racing to finish our developments and do the final breaking point. He takes here. I don't know if he just thought the camel was worth less than the knight. I would have took with the knight first, but I was kind of trying to trap him, and I do end up trapping him anyways. Because once he goes here, I can move my pawn up 2 spaces. But before I can move my pawn 2 spaces, but before I do that, I threaten the camel and create a pin on his rook. So his camel keeps getting him into trouble today. So yeah, he protects it with a pawn, and I'm like, get out of my house. And I push my pawn up. I am making myself pretty open to the lion, but I still am close enough to maintain the opposition with the lion from a distance, so it's not a big deal. He sacrifices. I actually seen this move coming because I could just feel him wanting to like throw this attack at me. So I figured the sacrifice was imminent. So I go here, take it. He brings his lion out. I oppose his lion further. He creates a 2-pawn protection front. So now he's got a pretty solid post. So I just take because I feel like the elephant's worth the same. And I already had I already cleared his camels off the board. So I felt like it was worth it. And it slowed his attack down a little bit. I brought my bishop back. He covers the line with the rook and threatens my cannon. But I stop it with a single move. I just go here. This is kind of an interesting move because what I do is I create a battery, block the cannon, and at the same time I turn the cannon into a weapon within itself to threaten his rook. So, sneaky move. I don't have enough power to take this pawn yet, so I just keep along with my original strategy that I was going to do earlier, but then I got interrupted by all of my opponent's moves, and that strategy was to lock this knight out. So now this knight cannot escape, and he doesn't really have any pieces to protect it at this point, so I've completely taken his knight out of the game, which is cool. So he comes in from a big weak spot. Lions are great at this kind of thing. He just wants to go here and start a checkmating sequence. Let's just play out if I ignore this. Let's just say I move something over on this side of the board. He would check me right here, and then my options already start becoming kind of limited. Maybe I could go here. Then he could check here, and then I go here, and then yeah. So he wouldn't have been able to really checkmate me, but he could have put me out in the open and made things really bad for me. And he probably could have even eventually picked off a piece from me. But I had proximity with my lion, which is what saved me. So I didn't have to deal with any of this. I just went here. I felt like I was doing better in pieces in general because I got his eagle, even though I was kind of doing bad on pawns. So I figured getting the lion off the board made things easier for me, and he obliged. So I was happy with that, and made the game a lot less pressure. I don't think he wanted the lions on the board either, so it was a gentleman's agreement. So takes. Now the princes become a little bit of a different type of force in the game because the prince is like right under the value of the rook, so it makes a good minor piece at this point of the game. So he threatens my prince. I just take. He's trying to bear down and get find like a checkmating square. So he brings his rook down here, and he's just creating more pressure on the line. So I bring my cannon up to threaten the knight that was trapped, and the knight sacrifices himself to throw me off, which maybe was the best move. I actually considered that option myself. Oh yeah, that's right. No, he tricked me. Yeah, he tricked me, people. I forgot that this was protected, and yeah, I made a critical error. But it's okay, because it was worth it. In the end, I made it worth it. I just played the hand I was dealt in this position, and harassed his queen. I was still winning because of the eagle, but I was able to start my pawn front going, which is my long-term goal. So I'm just harassing with pawns at this point. He threatens my eagle and he's kind of putting some pressure right here. So I'm starting to feel the heat. So I bring my prince back to block everything because he was about to start a big sacrifice and like just hurt me. And then he threatens my eagle. I go here, and I'm doing this to just put pressure on this line and also protect this spot right here and keep my eagle safe, which is my big pot of gold right now. He threatens here, so he's putting some pressure on me. And I just tuck my king away all nice and neat. And I feel pretty safe in this position, so I get back to business as usual. He goes down here, and he does this to bring his queen over here. So he's trying to keep the pressure going, but I fork him. And he ignores the fork and checks me, but I'm still feeling pretty safe, and I just back up. And so he gives up and just decides, hey, you can have the prince, and I take the prince. He takes, and then I didn't really want to move this pawn or this bishop just yet, because my prince would have been hanging. So first I threaten the queen, he moves it back and just creates some power on the diagonal. I move my prince out of the way so I can take this pawn. He does not protect it. He chugs forward trying to find just any way to attack me that he can. And I come back here and threaten his queen. And this is protected pretty thoroughly, so this gives me an opportunity to develop my elephant. I talked about this in my introductory video, my development video, I'm sorry. That elephants like to harass to get multiple moves because they're really slow pieces. So I do this, I threaten his bishop, I try to bank off the harassments. He comes up here and tries to take my bishop, and I'm like, nah. And I just take his pawn. So I accomplished 2 goals at once. He was threatening my bishop, so I just took and got my bishop out of the way. And I really don't care if he takes queen for eagle, because I feel like they're either at least equal in value or the queen's actually worth more. And then he foolishly takes my elephant, but you know, I feel like he's just trying to break me down for like a last ditch effort, because I am starting to slowly seal the deal. So he takes, I think at this point he's just mercilessly exchanging, and then he actually seals his fate right here. I think out of frustration maybe, he takes I take his queen, and he resigned on the spot. And it was a pretty fun game. And I feel like this demonstrated the overall strategy of the 2 bishops opening and what the central themes are. So let's recap just to show the central themes. So we start off with these key moves, and then you just get that locked in right there. Have both these bishops pointing towards the center with a rake, and the prince is out on the queen side, keeping everything solid. And you just want to develop, and then bring out your center, and just get ready for what your opponent's going to do to you, and try to find the best counter moves. This is somewhat of a reactive opening. At first, you play really close to the chest and don't give up any major weaknesses. You just try to create a nice solid position where your opponent can't break in. Then once your opponent does break in, don't make it an easy decision for them. Try to take control of the game, and you control what lines open and what lines don't open. Let them try to go in on you first, and then react to them in such a way that it opens things up for you. So, you know, force them to get frustrated and do those early pawn takes that they shouldn't do, and just keep them guessing. You know. Don't be scared when they counterattack like this, because yeah, it generally just happens that way. Put this on off. And yeah, so thanks for watching. This is Rickett Ralph signing out, and yeah, I'll be releasing another openings video. We'll be covering the 2 prince variations, It's more of a universal type opening piece.